In the 12-year history of ZOS, how often have the classes been balanced? The last class that came out, guys, was the Arcanist. We all know this. I'm building something up here. And what did they do with the Arcanist? They made one skill line for DPS. They made another skill line for tank. And they made another skill line for healing. Right? And they went hard into that. And you can do good DPS with literally just one Arcanist skill line. Nothing else. You can tank with one Arcanist skill line, nothing else. And you can heal with one Arcanist skill line, nothing else. That is the last thing they did. And this is the ship turning because the new creative director. Now they're saying that was a mistake, that was wrong. They're not throwing Rich under the bus, but that is what they're saying. So now they're saying, no, each skill line should have, it sounds like, some tanking, some healing, some DPS, right? Now, this is one way to do this. The other way to do it is what they did with the Arcanist, okay? Each skill line does one thing, and that's what it does. I wasn't even sure when I talked about this before, but like I don't even know what advice to give because I don't know which of these two directions they're going. And they could probably go a third or fourth or fifth, but those are the two main ones and the two two things that seem like they made the most sense. They were most obvious and also seem like they made a lot of sense. You could pick one of these two. I had basically convinced myself that what they are suggesting they're going to do, I had basically convinced myself that they were not going to do that. And the reason I thought to myself, you know what, they're almost certainly not going to do that. I kind of convinced myself of this. The reason for that is because in the 12-year history of ZOS, how often have the classes been balanced? I would say far less than 50%. Okay? Probably way less than that, but at least less than 50%. Have the classes been balanced against one another? Okay? And let's just assume, for sake of argument, let's call it 7. Okay? Just say that, I know the Arcanist didn't always exist, neither did the Warden, etc. Let's just say they always did. If they couldn't balance 7 distinct objects with each other, and now they're saying they're going to make each skill line with something for each class, which I don't know if they're putting that fine of a point on it, but I do feel like that's what they're saying. How in the world do they expect to be able to balance 21 class skill lines, all the combinations? Okay. So if you want to know how to do the math for this, guys, this is combinatorics. And what you would do, you're trying to figure out what combination of 21 objects, those are the skill lines, where you can pick 3 of them, and the order doesn't matter, okay? This is combinations. That's what, if you're looking for the math word, like this is what combinations are. So 21, choose 3. Oh, not 2, choose 3. So we had 7 options, okay? It's going to be like 1,300. Yeah, 1,330, okay? So they couldn't balance 7 things. Now they expect to balance 1,330 things. How do they expect to do that? I think there's no fucking way. Just to be honest. I just think there's no way that they can possibly do this. Right? And when we had multi-classing, you had essentially 7 choose 3. Okay, you have 7 total. You have 1 DPS skill line essentially from each. It's not exactly, but just go with me. Even then, they only had 35 options. Okay, and now they're going to go to like 1,300. Now games will do this. They will have this many combinations. Oftentimes, what are called games like Diablo, right? Action RPGs is usually the genre. Diablo, Path of Exile. Throw out some names. You guys know these action RPGs. Depending on what game it is, right? Oftentimes they will have even more than this. They'll have massive, massive numbers. But those games aren't PvP. And those games often, there's a lot of differences. Not PvP. They often operate in seasons where like they do something, the players find the broken stuff and it'll be completely broken. They play for a season and then the game the new set of rules comes out where they change things. They fix this problem. They nerf the hell out of this. But they change something else. And the fun for the players is figuring out how to break the game. Okay. ESO is not that game. I don't know of any MMO that does this. Does anybody know of an MMO that does this? Like, drop some science on me if I'm wrong. I just don't think that there's any way they're going to be able to balance this. And that's why I had convinced myself that there's no way that they would try to do this, because it seems insane. The other way, they would only have 35 things to choose from. That's more than enough combinations to make things interesting. And I will also say, with multi-classing having come out, and also with scribing coming out, the game for the average player, which is very casual, okay, is already too complicated. And for me currently, and for most of you guys, I know because you've told me, the game is too complicated. Just too damn complicated. And I just want to be able to play and have fun. And I love the math and the numbers and everything else. And it's just like, dude, I don't want to be doing a spreadsheet every time I'm trying to like load up a character. And so I think this is a huge problem. And they're not good enough at game design to be able to make it where you can. So what you ideally want is you want players to look at something and be like, oh, again, I'll use the elementalist, right? Oh, I want to make an elementalist, or I want to make a vampire character. Oh, I want to make a bow. I want to make an archer. Yeah, that sounds really fun. Maybe a couple different flavors. Like you could have an arcane archer that uses spells, or you could have a woodsman, like a ranger, whatever. And what you want is players to pick this fantasy and then be able to make a build that pick things that make sense. And then what you want in good game design, okay, which not even trying to throw shade, but ESO is so far from this. What you want in good game design is you want the player that says, hey, I want the Bobo Ranger character. Yeah, I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to go hard into it. Cool. And they pick the stuff that is thematic for them. And it's easy to make that character because you go, oh, yeah, that's thematic. Oh, yeah, that's thematic. Oh, yeah, and 90% of your character is done, maybe even 100%, just by picking things that are thematic. And then you want another player. Again, no theory crafting, no number crunching, no parsing, no anything, to go, I want to make an elementalist. Oh, how do I do that? Oh, there's an ice skill line. I'm grabbing that skill line. That's cool. Oh, sorcerer. They've got the lightning skill line. I'm grabbing that. Okay, I got to grab a third one. Oh, you know what? Dragon Knight. Fire. Yeah, we got ice. We got fire. It's a fire and ice kind of thing. You know what? Maybe I could just go with just fire and ice. Maybe I'll lean into that instead. Or they go, oh, okay, I'll keep these two and I'll grab that lightning. Cool. That's really cool. Or they go, hey, you know what? Fire and ice and lightning. Nah, I want even more, and they grab whatever they can. They make their elementalist build. What you want is these two examples of players through no theory crafting to be able to make a build that makes thematic sense for them. And then when you check their DPS, assuming they're both at the same skill level, it's the exact same damage. That's what you want. Now, is it ever going to be exact? Probably not. You can get really fucking close though. That's what you want. Okay. ESO, ZOS is never going to be able to do that. They don't have they're not going to spend the time and the resources. I'm going to assume that the people there are more than capable. They have some very smart people, I know. I'm going to assume they're more than capable. They're never going to spend the time and the resources, and they do have to find the right people because some of them have proven to be fairly incompetent over the years. But I'm assuming the low-level people are probably pretty solid, okay? Giving the benefit of the doubt if nothing else. That's what you want to happen. ESO is never, it's just not going to happen. And so this idea again that they're gonna come up with 1300 and some change options and get anything close to something that's balanced. And remember, they regard this as a iterative process. Okay, so shit, guys, it's been okay. It took them 10 years to put the thing they said before launch they were going to put in the game. Okay, then they launched a thing. I love subclassing, guys. I've told you that before. I like it. I think it's cool. I love it. I think it's great for the game. No, I don't know if I would say overall it's great for the game, but it's great for me for the game, okay? I love it. So just know that's my bias. I love it. They expect they're having problems balancing this, and they expect to be able to balance it against all those other things. And then they said it's an iterative process. It's going to take time. They're going to do one class at a time. By the time they start at one class, by the time they get to the third or fourth class, things have changed so much. Guys, whenever you're designing a game, and you could ask game developers, they'll tell you this. Whenever you're designing a game, the idea you have at the beginning is not the idea you launch with. And by the time you launch a finished product, we're sending it out the door, guys. We've been working on this for years. And this includes tabletop games and everything else. Sending it out the door, you already have a better idea of how you would do it. Okay? You're already ready for the second edition by the time you send out the first edition. Okay? But if you change all those things, you got to change one thing, you got to change 1,000 things. ZOS is telling us that they are going to be iterating on these skill lines for the rest of eternity. They might as well. Now, what might happen is at some point they just give up, they throw in the towel, and they stop. But this is a wild way to do it. The reason I had convinced myself that this is not what they were going to do, and I'll jump into these comments here in a second. I know some of them probably won't make sense because they'll be after the fact. You're responding to something I was saying right at the moment. I apologize. But the reason I had convinced myself that if they at least did, this is a healing skill line, this is a tanking skill line, this is a DPS skill line, they would at least have a manageable number of combinations. And again, the player base does not want to have to go through 1,300 combinations. Some of us really sweaty nerds that we're going to geek out on this stuff. It's going to have a lot of fun. Also, for me as a content creator, guys, infinite content. Thank you, ZOS. Like, they just gave me a present. I appreciate it, right? But it's not good for the average player. And that's what I actually care about. And so, so I don't, head scratcher to me. I don't understand. I don't know why, but I generally think this is a terrible idea.